We are ranking Obituary's full discography today.
That's right. We're starting with their debut, going to their newest album. And what we like to do here is we like to put one album in the S, two in A, and then everything else can just fall wherever.
Let us know what your ranking is in the comments. Let's roll it. So we're starting all the way back in 1989 with Slowly We Rot. Absolutely legendary Floridian old school death metal album. Cornerstone of the sound, to be honest with you. Heaps of atmosphere. Sounds like rotting corpses, in my opinion, which is pretty awesome. It's brutal, dark, gory. It's a fresh listen to this day, in my opinion. Favorite songs include Slowly We Rot, Internal Bleeding, Till Death, and Immortal Visions. I gave this one an A. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, all right, man. I think that this was a really cool album for them to debut with. They were really picking up on what Death's formula was, particularly in like the scream, bloody gore era. They weren't doing it as like proggy as they were, but they still were highlighting like these like gross vocals, shredding guitars, and horror-inspired musical themes. I think they really defined their sound by contrasting their demonically brutal parts with those sludgy, down mid-tempo parts, which they are just so known for. And those reverb-laden vocals and guitars, man, it's just so cool. Highly unique, often imitated, never replicated. Slowly We Rot, Gates to Hell, Blood Soaked, some of my favorite songs. Dude, I had to put this one at an S. I mean,
this is your S tier?
Yeah, this is my S.
You're coming out the gate with S.
Coming out.
We're going to put you at S for now. We're just,
sure, yeah. Just for the time being.
Yeah, we're going to have contention at some point. You know, heads will roll. Friendships will be broken.
Yes.
Not really. We're not that brutal about it.
No.
Some of you are, though, annoyingly in the comments, would kill us over this ranking. Well, whatever. Speaking of killing us, Cause of Death in 1990, my go-to Obituary album, to be honest with you. Absolutely no bad songs on it. The title track and Chopped in Half are the metal songs that are just live, that live in death metal history. Other notable songs that I love too are like Infected, Body Bag, Dying, and Cause of Death. So much amazing groove on this record, and the production is perfectly grimy, in my opinion.
Yeah, this was a great follow-up. Doesn't sound very tired. They really lean into those tropes of the gross vocals, the drums that switch between like the thundering percussion of like the toms and the snare, and then how they switch it up with the cymbal work, so you get like that real bright, you know, trebly fucking stuff going on. Dude, it's just brilliant. Utterly filthy riffing. It sounds like Swamp Thing wrote these riffs. But they know how to groove too, man. Like the groove is there in spades. It's really hard for me to say that this is, you know, not an A tier, but I do have it at like B plus basically. I think after Dying, the album kind of falls apart for me. I think the last few tracks are a little I'm dead now, actually.
Cause of Death, shot to death in Brandon's basement.
Yeah, murdered by Brandon.
All right, well,
I'd be willing to put it at A. Let's put it at A.
We're gonna put it at A.
That is a compromise.
Cause of Death.
Cause of Death was A.
I'm a little bummed about that, but it's okay. The album artwork on Cause of Death is also better.
Dude,
it's iconic.
Yeah.
Moving up to 1992, we've got The End Complete, which this is not the end of Obituary, don't worry. Continuing that groove and slimy tradition, another awesome album in their discography. I'm in Pain is one of the most iconic death metal songs like ever written by far. The title track is also the perfect fusion for fans of death metal and hardcore. I feel like hardcore fans like caught up late with how awesome Obituary was, but this is like the crossover record that a lot of people in the hardcore genre also love. It's just a banger, but it's also a transition record. Really good. Definitely one that I do revisit. I gave it an A.
Yeah, I also have it at A, man. I think that this is a great addition to their catalog. I really like that hardcore crossover. I'm going to mention it later, but like this band was so influential on bands like Terrorizer, Brutal Truth, you know, like all those like grind bands that wanted to take inspiration from like the punk and the hardcore scene. Dude, Obituary was doing this shit in like the early 90s before anyone else was doing it. I love the usage of the sound clips on here too. I thought that it helped to add some character to the album. I think this is a solid record. We both agree that this is an A record.
Yeah, we finally agree on something.
Oh, good.
I don't have to shoot you again. So far, I'm feeling pretty good about this list.
Yeah, not bad. I had a feeling that the early ones were gonna rise to the top. That's a really good impression. World Demise, baby. Look, this was kind of becoming uncharted waters for me, really, as far as getting into Obituary albums. I was really surprised how much I actually liked this one, despite feeling like every other song was kind of meh. Even their meh songs have at least like a memorable section. The title track is an absolute ripper. I fucking love it. There are some really nice moments where they start to put in like effects to like boost the chunky parts. I think this is super forward thinking. It's very reminiscent of like industrial, and I would dare even say like new metal. Like Slipknot has been doing this since like their get-go, but Obituary was doing it back in 1994. You also start to hear on later albums that they start to kind of inject like huge reverb on the percussion and stuff like that. I don't know, man. I really like this one. It's kind of inching its way behind my favorite, which is Slowly We Rot. I had to put this one at A.
Yeah, you're going to be disappointed in me, and that's fine. I'll die on that rock. World Demise for me is, technically, it's a good album. In fact, there's really no like horrible albums on this list. Even if something hits D tier, I would say it's at least worth listening to.
Yeah.
World Demise for me is C tier. It's technically good, but I never revisit this album. There's just better records for me. Don't Care and Final Thoughts, though, are phenomenal songs, and they definitely make it in their live set lists like all the time. So I love those tracks, but the rest of the record to me just feels good to safe in comparison. But I mean, you also like sludgy riffs, and this album is full of them. I like more death metal, so maybe that's why we've got that contention here.
I think it's a subjectivity thing for sure.
But we got to meet in the middle. You're A, I'm C, so B?
B, I think that's fair. Yeah.
All right.
Back from the dead. By this time, the band was really leaning into those punk and hardcore influences. Like I said, gonna inspire tons of bands like Terrorizer, Brutal Truth, etc. I found that the more I listened to Obituary, the more I was seeing their influences on all these death metal bands, especially the American death metal scene. I've gotta say, my first gripe with this is the drum mix. What the hell is going on with this? Like, the first 3 records have this awesome boxy sounding drum where like the snare just sounds like a 2x4 hitting you in the forehead, booming kicks, and toms, and very bright cymbal work. This sounds like super modern for 1997 or whatever year it was, and I do not like it. This may be because longtime producer Scott Burns was not behind the mixing board. Jamie Locke, one of my old professors at school, recorded and produced this album.
Oh, so you're shitting on your old professor.
Yeah, well, fuck you, Jamie, for making Obituary sound weird. No, I think everything but the drums sound fine on this record. I don't think he did a bad job, but this is a big miss in terms of their tone. I think the tracks are safe, they're fine. Like I said, that hardcore influence, if you really like the hardcore crossover, you're really going to dig this album, but they missed the tone hugely, big time, bigly. I give it a C.
I think you're being a little harsh in my opinion, but that's okay. This was around the time where death metal was starting to sound samey across the landscape. Like bands like Suffocation's records and like all those albums were starting to come out. And this is, around the time when black metal was starting to rage against the production and start doing their thing with it. And that hyper compressed sound was starting to come do something else. So I can totally see what you're saying, because it is definitely a change in the production landscape. But production aside, there's some pretty killer songs on here. Threatening Skies alone is like one of the best songs in all of their catalog. Threatening Skies! It's just like, it's such a fucking awesome song. It's a blast live. And this album, when it is on, it is a banger. Considering that this record is the album that they're doing before this long hiatus that we're about to talk about, I think they were burnt out at this point.
Yeah, you can kind of hear it. Yeah.
I think that's honestly like where you're starting to draw that line. And I think maybe it was time to take a break. Back from the dead, they should be dead at this point. So you're C, I'm B. Let's go C.
Okay. I have it at C+. I do like to add pluses and minuses to kind of help differentiate, especially when we get into the real meat of rearranging things very particularly.
Yes, getting into the long and veiny of it.
The meat. Shout out to Jamie
for doing a bad job.
Yeah, right. He also did Madball. So he was like, he did some like the New York hardcore, which is understandable. I can understand why they would grab him because, like I said, you know, we've talked about it. Obituary was very much kind of in that hardcore vein. So I don't think that they chose the wrong producer, but.
Frozen in Time 2005.
This was an album that they had a long hiatus after Back from the Dead. It was almost a 6-year hiatus. Clocking in at around 35 minutes, I think that this record was not a bad return to form, you know, showcasing that they still really had it. Contextually speaking, 2005, the death metal landscape was way different. I mean, I think that there was really OSDM and this style of Floridian stuff was really taking a back seat to metalcore, you know, all that crossover kind of stuff.
Post-hardcore.
Right, yeah.
That was in the limelight then.
For sure. I really was kind of surprised to see that this was one of their more critically acclaimed records. The first track, Redneck Stomp, has 12 million, like almost 13 million Spotify listens, which is crazy.
It's a killer song.
Yeah, dude, for sure. And they were number 38 in the top 100 charts in Poland. That's pretty good, you know. Scott Burns returns as the producer. I think he did a pretty good job. They were mixed much closer as far as the drums go. I still, though, I mean, I like songs like Insane, Mindset, and Slow Death. But still, this is kind of one of their more meh albums for me, so I have it at C.
You're critical today.
I'm rather critical.
It's Ben critical. It's critical hit Ben over here.
Yeah.
Frozen in Time for me, I actually gave it a B tier, and here's why. Insane Alone is the track that I feel like everyone was just like, they hit play and they're like, oh, thank God, Obituary is back.
Yeah.
You know, they're firing all cylinders, and you can kind of hear it with that song. Redneck Stomp is also a very fun groove death metal tune that's a blast to listen to. It's the first album too in their second act where you've got classic Obituary elements with that kind of upgraded familiar production sound. It's a great album that goes back to what they do best. Sure, they're kind of repeating old tropes. I can agree with that, but in my opinion, it's still gold. B, you got C+.
Yeah, I'd be fine with B.
We could do a little B action.
Yeah.
B for Ben and Brandon. Executioner's Return from 2007. It's a good album, but honestly, I almost never revisit it. It's just, it feels like a very filler record. Many of the songs feel very safe. They don't push that brutal groove marker to the edge like most of their other records. The longer and slower songs, though, which they started doing in this album a lot more, they experimented with that sound. You can tell that they're onto something here, but it doesn't quite connect. And especially being Funeral Doom fans, I feel like we would like it, but I don't know. It was a miss for me. I put this in C tier.
That's interesting. I actually put it at B because I found it to be a better return to form than Frozen in Time. Executioner, by the way, is a throwback to their original band name from 1984 to 89. They were known as Executioner, and there was a band from Boston that was also known as that. Trust us, at the time, that was really edgy, Executioner. When you read some of their marketing and press, they consider that this to be one of their monumental albums as far as the tone goes. Okay, I don't know. I don't really think so. What do you guys think? Be sure to leave some comments down below. I mean, yeah, I like this a little more than Frozen in Time, but I wouldn't argue this at like C. I have it at B, but I wouldn't hate to throw it at C.
B's getting a little bloated.
Yeah.
We got to downgrade some things. I feel like it's worse than Frozen in Time.
Let's put it at C. I'm willing to.
And again, just because it's in C doesn't mean it's a bad album.
Right. No, not even close.
Yeah. All these albums are at least worth listening to and honestly pretty good.
Yeah.
But there are some that are just like complete legendary status.
Right.
And that delineation is deserved. Darkest Day! I feel like I should be in an Obituary cover band.
Yeah, you're nailing it today.
2009, Darkest Day. Definitely an upgrade, in my opinion, over Executioner's Return. But the biggest flaw in this album is the metal legends are seeming to recycle riffs. Given, though, that Obituary is very simplistic in how they write things, I could see how that would come off. But the middle era of the band in general seems to just have this problem with recycling things in between their banger tunes. Not a huge ding for me, but it's very samey in that regard. I love the opener, List of the Dead, and the doom elements on Your Darkest Day. Payback and Violent Dreams are also fucking sick songs. So I would argue that this is a pretty good record. I put it in B tier.
Yeah, I actually have it in a similar category, B-. I think that this was outside of their runtime where they shine. I think that there are definitely a few songs on here that they probably could have cut. To hear them recycling riffs is like, what? Like, I understand like why you might do it and like you want like a motif kind of thing happening, but still it's like, you guys are better than this. Like, we know you're better than this. Don't do that. But really, I do like the more somber atmosphere of this record. It's one of the only times where they have an album that is more doomy than some of their other ones. I like this one quite a bit. I have it at B-.
Yeah, I think we agree. That was fucking. That was awful. That was the worst fucking joke I've ever made. But whatever. I don't care. 2014, Inked in Blood. This was a good Obituary album. Passable, in my opinion, but it's also their weakest. Some good songs, but the fact that it's almost an hour long is the biggest problem here. There's a lot of bloat on this record. If they cut some tunes, I think this would be a lot more fun of a listen. Some notable tracks, I would say, are Visions in My Head and also Violence. Those are pretty awesome songs that I would love to even hear live, but overall, this is not a great album.
Yeah, dude. I have exactly what you put. I put down Pain Inside sounds like a song I wrote when I was 13, and Deny You is not good. Not a good song. And the title track is pretty mediocre, which is very unusual for this band. Yeah, I don't think I would revisit this one. I think that you have the standout songs, Violence, Visions in My Head, Violent by Nature, I think is a good track too. But I mean, I would only use this album to like help build the playlist.
Yeah, it's not really worth revisiting in my opinion. But I'm glad they tried.
Yes, thanks for trying.
Inked in D tier.
Obituary self-titled 2017. Usually when you get to the point where you're doing a self-titled record, you're like, all right, this is a magnum opus. Like, we are here, we're delivering. Not so much, I don't think, on this one. It is a bit better than Inked in Blood. I would definitely feel comfortable saying that. I think that it's hard pressed for me to really return to this, though. I think a couple of really good songs are A Lesson in Vengeance, It Lives. Outside of that one, I don't know. I have this at C. I'm not like super excited about this.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think I agree. To Obituary 2017, it's definitely an improvement over Inked in Blood. I would agree with you there. There's more viciousness here that's finally returning. I feel like they're a little bit more like hungry again. Obituary's hungry. Why?
Songs this is why like, you watch this channel, right?
That's how John Tardy like goes to a drive-thru. He's like, John Tardy's hungry. Unsubscribe if you want to. I don't care.
You can dislike it now.
Songs like Brave, Sentence Day, 10,000 Ways to Die, they remind me why I love this band so much, but the rest of the record is definitely patchy. The songs that hit, though, do hit hard. I think it deserves C.
Yeah.
And then we got the new album.
This is what you all are here for, right?
Dying of Everything.
Did you skip right to this part of the video, you asshole?
We'll know in the analytics. We can see that heat map of you guys being like Fuck your effort.
Yeah. You guys wrote about the other albums? That's weird.
Why? Weird. Dying of Everything 2023, one of the most anticipated metal albums of the year, especially for us. It seems like this extended break, though, that Obituary took did the band some really big favors for how great that they sound on this album. The album feels like the Obituary that I have always loved. Brutal death metal, right? Mixed with hardcore, groove, and grind, which is like, that's what we want. The production sounds so unapologetically them, with those fuzzed out guitars, wailing vocals of Tardy, and those dive bomb solos that go in between the grooving drums.
So cool.
They're firing on all cylinders here, man. I loved every song on this record, but the most notable ones was the opening riffer, Barely Alive, such a banging tune. My Will to Live, Dying of Everything, By the Dawn, and then Wrong Time. I mean, the whole record is pretty awesome.
Dude, By the Dawn is a fucking awesome song.
It really is. This band sounds better than ever, in my opinion, especially since their break, and I can confidently put this in the same tier for me as Slowly We Rot and The Incomplete. This is an A.
Yeah, man. Like you said, easily one of our most anticipated. I think they really have honed in their sweet spot too. They're back at like the 45-minute runtime. This album feels perfectly paced. I really like that how they format it, and we always shit on Mariusz Lewandowski, rest in peace. We shit on his album art because usually what people do is they just take the art and just throw it right on the cover, and they're like, look, it's Mariusz Lewandowski. I really like how they formatted this. They have the Obituary logo in the corner. They have the album title in the bottom. Awesome job. I really like how they did that. Joe Kincada of Full Force Studios, killing it, dude. The man behind the mixing board on this one knows what this band sounds like. He's been doing a lot of awesome death metal records over the last few years, and he has nailed this tone. Without a Conscience, By the Dawn, Be Warned, some of my favorite songs. I really don't think there's a bad song on here too, man. I have it at A. I couldn't stand to see it below that.
Hey! Yeah. But now we got to move some things around.
Yes, we are breaking our criteria right now. We only want to have 2 items at A,
one at S.
One at S. And I don't think we're going to agree on what the S is going to be.
If I have to fight for one, my S tier needs to stay at A.
Okay.
Which is, Cause of Death.
Yes.
So I will die in a fire to make sure that happens.
I think I actually like that. I think that's fine.
I would downgrade The Incomplete, but then B looks a little too crowded.
Yes.
So,
I would downgrade The Incomplete and vote for World Demise to move up, but I know you don't like that one as much as I do.
Not even close as the new one.
Yeah. No, that's true. I wouldn't put that on par with the new one. We can either upgrade or downgrade somebody from B.
I think we need to downgrade one thing from B, because B, not all of these are equal.
No, not even close.
I would say Incomplete definitely belongs here.
Yep.
Frozen in Time belongs there. World Demise for me, it is not that good, but you have it high.
I like that album quite a bit.
So that leaves these other 2.
Back from the Dead and...
Back from the Dead I have at B, which I think you had at C.
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
So let's move Back from the Dead down. Because to be honest, I think I might have overrated that one a little bit. And I think it's better than these 2.
I agree, yeah.
So I think that's... What about this tier? I would argue...
I was going to say, you could move down World Demise if you would like.
I would say something like that. Incomplete, World Demise, then these 2.
Yeah.
I think that's our ranking. What do you think?
Shit, I'm really happy with that. Yeah.
I'm good. I mean, I could argue Slowly We Rot and Cause of Death could be kind of interchangeable for me.
Yeah.
But I just personally, I grew up with Cause of Death, listening to that a ton. I have a little bit more personal connection to it. Mm-hmm. But I think I love this. I think this is a great tier list. I'm psyched.
Yeah, this is really accurate. Like we said earlier, there's no bad albums really. There's just some that you'd want to pull songs off of to create a playlist, but these are all worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. Check out our other tier list too.
Yep.
What did you think of our discography ranking? What is your ranking? And what did you think of the new album?
Yeah, this new album is great. Obituary is great. Be sure to leave your comments down below. Go with the gods, Forgemates. We are dying of everything.
Slowly We Rot. See you next time.